Grab a beer and pull up a chair. Welcome to the Northwoods Beer Guy podcast. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Northwoods Beer Guy podcast. I am the Northwoods Beer Guy, and as usual, I am joined by Jim.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Another day in paradise.
Tonight, we are joined again by our good friend, Toby. Toby, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, and I am so happy to be here. I can't tell the crowd how excited I am always to hang out with you guys and give a little input. So thanks for having me.
Well, we are so glad you're here. So tonight, we are kind of on location. We are in the Wisconsin Dells.
We're definitely remote.
We are remote, not from. We're not in what was my,
Right.
my new location or your basement where my location has moved. We are in the Wisconsin Dells, and we are here because in the morning we're going to do the Dells on Tap 2023. But tonight we did the beer walk. And Jim was not able to join us for the beer walk tonight.
So what was it? I know I made it last year. How was it this year? I know you guys.
It was good. It was really good.
All right, so this is my first year, okay? And I know, Jim, you...
Can we say the V word?
Well,
on the podcast?
I am the virgin.
I guess we can say it. Yeah. All right.
But my thing is, okay, so we came down here because tomorrow is going to be this event.
Tomorrow is the big...
We get to try all these beers, which is fantastic. Tonight, we got to walk through the Dells. We got to go to different bars, and we got to sample different beers.
Nice.
And,
just to clarify, so there's breweries that take over in the bars, right?
Yeah. So
they don't really take over, but they do have like taps.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So each place had a different brewery that they were representing.
Awesome.
Yeah, which was really cool because, again, you get to go to the different bars in the Dells, which is smart by Wisconsin Dells.
There were bars that we had never been to before because the last place that we went to was... It was really cool. It's kind of by itself a little bit on the other side of the road compared to everything else.
Right.
And it reminded me of like an up north bar.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, except for they had a big alligator mounted on the wall. But it was really cool because, it had that kind of vibe to it. And the beer there, honestly, I'm not going to lie. It was a cranberry beer. It was the best cranberry beer I've ever had.
It was unbelievable.
It was cranberry orange. It was like a Hefeweizen or something. It was like a wheat beer.
No, it was a wheat beer because we had a Hefeweizen earlier.
Oh, we had that, pineapple Hefeweizen.
Yeah.
Yes, but this one was a cranberry orange beer.
Yep.
And just for the listeners out there, did anybody bring a sample back for me?
Nope.
Well,
we couldn't.
All I can now do is just listen to how good it was. I don't get to taste it.
Well, it was a long ride back from that bar back to where we're staying, so we couldn't.
That is true.
We got thirsty on the way.
Wow. I hope everybody listening doesn't believe that either, but I'm going to have to go with it because I don't get to taste it.
No, it was, the weather was rainy, cold, windy, but other than that cranberry beer, we went to the Showboat Saloon, and the beer they had for the beer walk was not the beer that stood out to us. They had on tap Central Waters 23rd, 24th, and 25th anniversary stouts.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So we got a 3-beer flight.
Yep, nice flight.
And oh my gosh, they were not Pappy Van Winkle,
right?
But they were. I think the lowest one we rated was a 4.1 or a 4, and they went up to a 4.5. I think was the highest.
That's
they were amazing, Jim. You missed out because I'm pretty sure
none of these were barrel aged. They were just stouts.
They were all barrel aged.
Oh, but not just in the famous bourbon.
No, those 3 were barrel. In fact, I think that like the 25th anniversary one is the one that I got in my basement, the silver label one.
Oh, we
haven't tried yet. I got 2 bottles of that and then a bottle of another one. So we haven't tried it yet. But I'm pretty sure that is what that is, and it was unbelievable.
Mike, one other thing?
What's that?
I'm getting kind of parched listening to you guys talk. Is there any way we could
roll
into some drinking here?
Well, hang on. Jim sent me his list of beers.
Okay.
And he had, honestly, there was like 6 beers that were German or Czech that were like imported, basically. Right. So I'm like, let's bring it. Let's do them. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try these beers. And Toby, you've been, my family, hang on, my family is originally from Germany and Bohemia.
My mom was from Germany.
Yep. You've been to Germany. I've never been to Germany. So you're going to have some stories to tell us.
Oh.
And fill us in, when.
Well, but I think the other good part is usually, I've only found some of these at this time of year.
Right.
So it's a seasonal beer, even though they may not be a Marzahn.
Yep.
But why would they be seasonal? Like, why this time of year, Jim?
I think that the way the distributors are requesting these, I did not see anything in the literature that said that they're only brewed this time of year. I think they're only imported to the United States at this time of year.
I think you're right, Jim. I think when they're bringing Oktoberfest beers in, they just bring other ones in.
Right.
And that's my point. When I was asking that, Jim, I think, and I don't think those of us that go out and drink Busch Light, Miller Lite, the average beers understand these craft beers. And I think some people are apprehensive to try beers. But the reason that a lot of these beers are around during the month of September and October is because of Oktoberfest. Yep. And if you're looking to get into some craft beers or just some different flavors of beers, this is a great time to start.
Right. Yep. These are not over the top. These are, I believe they're all going to be golden in color, fairly light. Yep. I didn't see any of the ABVs in double digits. They're all between 5, 6, or 7.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a challenge for us to try to differentiate which is the one that stands out above the other ones.
I have some comments about that. When we start talking about
I think you're right. I think that they're going to be very similar, but I will bet you when we taste them, there's going to be a huge difference in flavor. And I think a lot of it is based on the region or the city or whatever that they're made in. They tweak stuff, and that's the thing that's really cool. Honestly, in my opinion, over in Germany and stuff, that all these towns tweak things to what you know what I'm saying. So
right, you're absolutely correct.
Beers, everybody knows they taste it. That's from this place. Where in the States, you really don't have that. But I think so. Yeah, I'm excited. I think this will be really fun. So,
well, I'll let Toby tap it, and I'll read a little bit off.
What's the first one we have, Jim?
So we got the Dortmunder Export Lager.
Dortmunder?
Dort.
Oh, Dort. Okay, I'm sorry.
So, and they say it says this is the original from Germany because,
really?
in the cross here, they had special exports.
Yes.
Which was brewed there for a while.
Yep.
But now this is the original from Germany.
Okay.
It says a pale, bottom fermented blonde lager. It is harmoniously balanced, crisp and easy to drink beer with pleasing notes of hops and malt.
Okay.
A very well-rounded taste profile with a soft and elegant texture. I think I like my women like that, but I hope the beer.
A soft and elegant texture. I understand.
Wow.
And it says it's got a 6.2 ABV.
Okay, so I think that's a little higher for a lot of German beers that we've had. It smells all right.
It smells not.
So it definitely looks very clear.
It looks like what you think for a beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that normal yellow kind of.
And when we say that, I'm going to say I have a buddy that talks about what we produce in America as foo-foo beers.
Okay.
And it kind of is. It has that look. It has a little bit of head on it. And you think, all right, this is going to be a normal beer.
This is like weird.
I think it's pretty good.
I'm trying to come up with the adjective so that everybody can understand kind of because the color of the beer is kind of deceiving the way the flavor is. You're used to, like if it's a Miller Lite or a Busch Light or whatever, you see that color and then you taste it and there's no real flavor.
Mm-hmm.
With this,
there's flavor.
Yeah. But it's not a bad flavor. It's just I'm trying to pick out what that's.
It almost has a little bit of almost like a dark, for the color that it is, it has a darker flavor to it.
Because, it's.
I think it's good.
It's pleasing notes of hops and malt. But every beer has hops and malt. So it's just hard to distinguish.
So I think one of the things that we need to always remember when we look at beers that are brewed in the U.S. or any of these German beers, and when I speak about German beers, my mom is from Germany, and my dad learned a little bit more about beer than I think the average American ever did. But This brewery, as it states on the can, is 1868.
See, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, really, when you think about that, they've been in business for a long time. So when you think about the beer that they brew, it is different than what we're used to.
Yep.
And this is a 5%.
Yep.
So I'm going to compare it to a Budweiser, okay? Where does this fit with Budweiser? This is a little bit smoother than a Budweiser.
Right.
Looks very similar, but again, they've been brewing beer a lot longer than Budweiser has here in the United States.
Well,
Anheuser-Busch, anyway.
Right. Well, and one of the other beers, some of the research I get found, they started brewing in 1265.
Wow. So
all these beers are, because the United States hasn't been around that long.
Well, if you remember last week on the podcast, we were at Central Waters. Or I'm sorry, at Sand Creek.
Sand Creek,
Oh, okay.
And that building had been used as a brewery since 1857.
Correct.
But then they had that on-off period where there wasn't a brewery, but nothing was in there, and then the brewery came out. But the fact that when you're talking about, the fact in Germany and then you said 12 something. I mean, that is just unbelievable. They've only been in business for another 600 years,
right?
Before, so that's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, so should we let our new guest, Toby, give us the score right off the bat?
Toby, like I said, you've been to Germany and you've tried a lot of beers. And thank you so much for being a part of the podcast tonight. Because, like I said, Jim and I, we want to go to Germany, but we haven't been there. But you've been there, so you can, we're kind of looking at you.
Enlighten us.
More of an expert. On the beers there and how this kind of rates.
I'm flattered that you put that much stock into me. But, I haven't been to Germany for a few years. But when I was there, I truly was exposed to a little bit difference of, I think, our perception and perspective on what beers are. This beer, I think, is very similar to what we have. I don't think it's anything like, oh my gosh, it tastes different. Again, I mentioned Budweiser before. I think it's comparable. To me, it's average. It's not going to jump on anybody's wheelhouse. You're looking at a beer that you want to say, hey, I want to drink a German beer. I think you could do this. So when you look at an average beer, is it above average? I don't think so. Is it below average? No. So in my opinion, I'd give it just that 2.5. I mean, it's right there. It'd be a good place to start.
I agree with you. Like I said, we've had a number of German beers, a number of Czech beers. It is not offensive.
No.
And I think if a person has not had a German beer before, they could drink this and they would not be turned off.
Absolutely.
It's not a strong flavor, anything like that. I agree with you. I go at 2.5 just because I think there's probably, I think some of the other beers you brought, Jim, are going to be more flavorful, where this one, I think it's a good starting point. And like I said, I think anybody could drink it and they'd like it.
And I think just to add to that, Mike, the fact that this comes out of a can and tastes like that is something to consider, because there's definitely a difference in my opinion with some of the European beers I've had when they come out of a can or a bottle. So out of a can, this is a good.
Do you find that the European beers out of a can and bottle that are vastly different flavor, or do you think like the U.S. beers are closer to the same flavor? Or, you know what I'm saying? What? How do you see that?
So I really think that most of the European beers I've had, particularly the German beers, when they come out of a bottle, they have a different flavor than they do with a can, and that just has to go with the whole, I'm going to call it, packaging process, you know, and
the U.S. beers do the same.
Correct.
But do you find it is like more of a difference between the European beers or more of a difference for the American beers? You know what I'm saying? If you have this beer in a can or a bottle, you know what I mean? Is there a wider taste difference between European if you had those two in the same?
I think my bias comes in here, Mike, where I'm going to say that a canned beer is great. Bottled beer is a little bit better.
Yes.
And I think tap beer is where you get the most flavor of beer, as long as you got some good taps. And I think
so it's the same in Europe.
Think so.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yep.
You know, if there was a difference.
I think so.
Okay.
And I just think that we have to also remember when beers sometimes come from Europe, our American laws are applied to the longevity of those beers. Mm-hmm. So the pasteurization and some of those things that happen, I think affect the flavor of it. Totally different when you're over there in Europe and you can sit down and get a beer that is brewed there and it comes right out of the tap. So
that's good to hear.
I'm always going to go with a bottled over a tap. Can.
Over can, yes. Jim, what were your thoughts on this one?
So I always revert back to my standby solution. Could I drink more than one of these, or could I drink this in a mowing lawn? I say yes.
Yep.
So I think, and after the first couple of swigs, that unique flavor that I was tasting has kind of went away. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's drowned my palate but it's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. To me, it tastes pretty good. I think I'm going to have to step outside the box. I'm going to go with 2.7. I think it is a little bit above average. Yeah. Just because we are drinking. It is a pint can. So of all the 6 we're going to try, this is the only pint can. And again, I don't know if we didn't really describe the can, but it's pretty it's nondescriptive. It's green. It almost looks like it's from Ireland, but it's Germany.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dab on it.
Yeah, DAB. I can't speak German, but the D is Dortmunder, the A is Achtung, and then the B is Brauerei.
His name is Jim.
So I think it's the brewery. I think
I think so.
I think that's the name of the brewery.
Yep.
Dortmunder Achtung Brewery. Yeah, that's you got to go to.
So I was close. I just threw a dart trying to figure that one out. So,
like I said, it's not a bad beer.
No,
in the least. And like I said, I think I like it. It's for a German beer. It kind of goes outside the box, so to speak. It's a good beer.
So I think one of the things that in America, and I'm going to generalize and I'm going to put everybody in the same kind of categories. We drink Miller Lite, we drink Busch Light, if you just drink Miller, you drink Bud Light, whatever it is, it's all kind of the same wheelhouse because we have distributors that distribute it amongst our nation. Okay, the thing about Germany is every community had their own beers. And so no matter where you went, you would always
every town
had their own beers. And they served them and this goes back in history. It doesn't hold true as much today, but it was called the Ratskeller.
Okay.
And so Rats meant the courthouse or the laws, and then the Keller meant basement. Okay. So underneath all of their courthouses, they had a Ratskeller. And so it was a place where you could go and get food and beer.
Okay.
Well, everybody brewed their own beer. And so every community had their own kind of local beer. And that was the beauty about it. It wasn't about I need to get my Busch Light every place I go. Right. It was like, I want to try these different beers. So the beers are a little bit different everywhere you go, which is great if you truly have that perspective of different flavors in beer.
Right.
And I think in America, it's like Miller Lite. Tastes great, less filling. That big argument that we've been in for 30 years or more. European beers versus American beers is just a difference of a country that's 2,000 years old versus a country that's just a little over 200 years old.
Right.
And so I think that perspective is important. And I would just recommend that anybody that drinks a beer has that perspective because you can learn a lot from the beer that you drink.
Toby, it's funny when you're talking about that because it's like, and I don't know how it is per se in Germany. I've heard before that every town has their own per se beer, and they tweak it and it's all a little bit different. And I think a lot of times in the States, you get in this, okay, let's mass produce something and we'll just get it out and we're good. It's all the same. And I think that's the beauty of craft beer, right, Jim, is that there's all these different flavors and all these different breweries and they all tweak stuff and they all have their own signature things. And I think that's where the U.S. and Europe is a little different. They're similar but different.
Yep.
Where in the States, I think the craft beer market is more like the German or Czech beer markets, where you have these places that tweak things. And you know what I mean? They're a little bit different.
Well, and I think, too, if I'm not mistaken, the way that they're growing their hops and their malts is impacted by the soil conditions.
Correct.
Soil types. So as you travel at different parts of Europe, you're going to get different kinds of soil, which is going to impact those hops. So you might even have the same name hop, but it may be influenced by the soil and it may give a different flavor. So, which I think is good because it's especially, and I've not been to Germany, but I mean, there's probably not a big spectrum of different beers. It's probably going to be a lot of the same ones, but it's just going to be just a little variation off that.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, Jim. So my dad was over in Germany in the early 60s, and he met my mom over there. And one of the things that he learned is that every community, so every city, region over there, depending on the weather, they grow their own hops.
Right.
And so they bring these hops in, and that's how they brew the beer. And over there, a lot of the monasteries, they grew their own hops, they made their beer, and they sold it.
Nice.
And that's just something we don't have over here. Now, we've got laws that regulate those things, and it's like, okay, if you're going to grow hops, this is what it has to be. But over there, they all do their own thing.
Right.
And so then they can brew the beer based off of local hops.
Right.
Nice.
Way different compared to what we're used to. So,
Hey, boys, I'm thirsty.
All right.
What do we got next, Jim?
So we have Spaten, which I think if you guys remember a couple episodes ago, we actually had a Spaten Oktoberfest.
Yes.
Which was very good.
Yes.
One of our friends, Arnie, he likes that. It's his favorite beer is a Spaten Oktoberfest. So now we have a Spaten Premium Lager, 5.2%. And this beer, they're telling us, I'm just reading what it says, is actually sold during Oktoberfest in Munich. So it's one of those that's sold there during the Oktoberfest celebration. Its first brewery, Spaten, was 1894. So this one's younger than the Dortmunder. So hopefully those few extra years of youth doesn't
Hopefully
impact
they were studying.
Yeah, but it looks similar to the first one.
it really does. And I think, you threw out a date there, Jim. And I think it's important for listeners to understand that even though this beer started in 1894, over in Europe, in 1516, they established that purity law.
I was going to say, exactly.
Which meant that
breweries still follow it today.
yes, they do in Europe.
Wow.
They do.
Yes.
And so beers were only consisted of 3 ingredients.
Was it 3 or 4?
Well,
They got three. They got three here.
I think it was 3.
It
was malt, hops, and water.
And water, yes.
Yeah.
So they left the yeast out. The yeast is the more important part, but can't remember the name.
So
of
are
that
you
law.
able, is that word, the last word there, the last one of that sentence, is that?
The Reinhard.
That is the name of the law.
Yep,
Yes. And it's
Reinhard
still-
Skabat.
It is still in effect today.
Yeah.
From
In
15.
In Germany, right?
What year? 15.
1516.
Yes, and the breweries over there are still following it.
So
this day.
over 500 years
Over
ago.
500.
And
That
they're
is
still making good beer.
And so the purity of the beer in Europe is just a little bit different, again, than what we make over here. While a lot of our beers, I think, are based off of those, we've just
try.
had different rules and
Right.
laws, yes.
They try, but they may not reach what they're doing here. But I mean, this is, clear. I mean, it's not clear, but I mean, you can see.
Jim, what do you think of the Spaten? I mean, to me, this is pretty good.
I mean, I would say this one does not have as much flavor as the export. This has a little less flavor. This is I would almost say like a Miller Lite or a Coors Light.
To me, this one has a little bit of a sweeter flavor than the last one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's
So I'm just going to be that guy.
Yep.
You guys are saying Spaten, I think, is what you're using.
Spaten.
So it's a Spaten. And no, I said Spaten. You guys said what?
Yes.
we said Spaten.
Did you? All right.
Is it Spaten or Spaten?
Spaten.
Well, it's a Spaten. I mean, it's Spaten. I mean, if you're not
It's in a green-
enunciate the S,
It's in a green bottle.
but it is a green bottle. I mean, does anybody know the difference in the bottle?
Green, if I remember right, because clear it spoils quicker.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they always say to put like a lime in Corona because it's a clear bottle that covers up the flavor. Correct. Okay.
And there's a lot to do with the differences in the color of the bottle between the green and the brown and how sun can affect them.
Correct.
Oh, nice.
So I don't mean to be critical, but some of us remember Green Death in the U.S. and I mean because that was in
Green Death. That was Heineken.
that was a little special export.
Oh, okay.
So it does have a nice little write-up here. It says, the special quality of Spaten's beers is a matter of great concern to us. That is why the brewery only uses raw materials of the highest quality to produce their beers. Malt lends beer its richness of flavor and its color. Malt for Spaten beers is obtained from barley grown primarily in Bavaria. The brewery pays close attention to the purity of its strain. Hops are the soul of beer, lending the beer to its distinctive bitter aroma. Spaten hops are grown in
Hatter-Pshorr. Colorado.
which is situated just north of Munich.
Munich.
Why don't you start off there? What do you think on a score?
I like it, honestly. I mean, it does have a little bit of a sweeter flavor to me. I'm thinking like a 2.9.
Wow.
Honestly, I
You
like
jumped
it.
way up there.
I do. I think it's a good beer. The Oktoberfest we had from them was good. They've been around forever. They know what they're doing. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been around for 600 years, you got to know what
You got to be doing something
right. You wouldn't be around that long if you
Yeah.
weren't producing good beer. So, I mean, I like the flavor. I mean, it's not bad. I guess I may have wanted a little more flavor. So I think I'm just going to knock it one down from what
Sure.
I like. So I'm going to go with 2.6. Nothing wrong with it. It's just maybe not as flavorful as that first one.
So Spaten to me is always one of those, and when I'm comparing it to German beers, I personally think it's just one below average. So I'm actually at about a 2.4.
Oh,
So
okay.
over in Germany, Toby, would you say that Spaten is kind of? It's not like a premium beer. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, I would completely say that, but everybody in America looks at Spaten as this is a German beer, and it's kind of big.
It's imported,
Right,
you know?
but again, this is from my limited perspective on when I've been in Germany. Spaten is just an average beer over there.
Okay.
It's not anything great. I'm going to throw out the name Warsteiner.
Yes.
If you give me Warsteiner or Spaten, I'm going to pick Warsteiner over.
Okay, well, that's good to know. You know, because here we don't know. Honestly, you see all the, you know, especially this time of year, you see all these German beers brought in. It's like, okay, well, which one is, you know, the big one? And when you look at Oktoberfest, they've got 10 or 15 brew houses, but each brew house is sponsored by a different brewery, so they've all got their places there.
And really in America, what's the main beer that they bring in?
From Germany, you're talking?
I mean, like most places have it. We call it an Oktoberfest.
The Hacker-Pshorr.
Hacker-Pshorr.
Yep,
That's one of the main ones they bring.
And then what style? Starts with an M?
Marzahn.
Yes. And I think once people understand the difference in styles, that matters as well.
Oh, yes.
What do we got next, Jim?
Oh, well, I'm going to hand this to you because I can't pronounce it.
So we got the Franziskaner. So
Say that 3 times really fast.
I know they
Frankensteiner.
Frankenstein, what?
No, it's not Frankenstein.
Oh, Franz.
You know what?
I do know they have a place at the Munich Oktoberfest. They have a beer hall.
They do.
For that one too.
So one of the things that's really cool about this beer is this is one of the few beers that's still brewed by some monks in Germany.
Really?
So it's a monastery. They still brew it. I don't know this off the top of my head, but I was just talking to my dad about this because my dad doesn't mind this beer. Yep. And he really has kind of a nose for good beer from Germany. And he's critical about our American beers. You know, he just doesn't like them. So he just, like we were just talking last week, and he talked about this beer and how it's still made by a
monastery.
Monastery, thank you. Sorry, that word was slipping my mind, but yeah, monastery, and it's still distributed, and they do fairly well with it, and it's one of the few places that actually goes worldwide with it.
Now, is your dad from Germany?
My dad is not from Germany. He's originally from Sparta, Wisconsin.
Okay. Your mom is from...
But my mom was from Germany, yes.
Okay.
So he spent some time over there and definitely traveled and enjoyed some beers and trained me a little bit.
I'll say it would be fun to talk to them on the podcast sometime.
Yeah,
hear their
absolutely.
views on stuff.
Well, it says that this one is refreshing, spicy, and fruity flavor.
So
that'll be interesting.
This is definitely darker than the beers we've tried.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it came out of a brown bottle. Does that matter?
It does matter.
See? Yeah. It's not brown, but it's a little bit darker.
It's a little darker.
Yep.
You can't quite see it through it like the first 2 that we had.
This one reminds me more of like a Hefeweizen flavor, doesn't it, Jim?
Oh, wow.
It almost has that weedy Hefeweizen flavor to it.
It does.
Of the 3 we've had so far, this is the first one that had that flavor.
Right. And I think it has the most flavor.
Oh, for sure.
Of the 3.
I would agree 100%.
So,
well, and it says that, I don't know because I can't read, but it says it's a premium Weissbier.
Weissbier.
Weiss. So what is that different than?
It's like a Hefeweizen.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay. So because we had, I think the first 2 were lagers, right?
Yes. I
So
believe
this is not.
This is a different style.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's going to be, for us, when we grade them all together, we're going to have to make sure because we don't all have the same style of beer.
No,
we just have location or style that it's made.
Correct.
Very different. And this is 1363.
Oh,
So when you think about how many years that goes back.
Mike, is that before you were born?
Just a couple. I think it was It wasn't like 30 years before you were born.
Barely.
You know, that's the thing that is crazy. You think about it. It's like these people have been brewing beer for 400 years before our country was born. That is just, to me, is the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard.
And they're still doing good.
Yes.
I mean, and I guess just for the bottle too. I mean, it does. I think like Toby talked about, it actually has a monk on there, and it looks like he might have his hops in one hand and his beer in the other hand.
And you know, and like I said, I'm German, you know, and like I said, these beers are it's they keep telling me I need to go to Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
To experience it at least one time. The Munich on
the big,
huge, the actual big one.
I don't know if anybody looks on Instagram. I don't know if you linked any of those videos that have been on Instagram onto your.
No, I have not.
Oh gosh. It just looks like it just looks like mayhem and chaos. There's just so many.
But I will tell you this. I've seen, I'm not sure how many ladies that are carrying like I don't know how many 20 beers, and they're all liter.
Yeah, they're not these
liter beers. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not picking on any of them because they beat the crap out of me because it's just crazy. But
and you know, so we talk about Oktoberfest a lot, and like the first beer we tasted, that really doesn't have a whole lot to do the Dortmunder with Oktoberfest. Mm-hmm. But the Spaten definitely does, and the beer we're drinking right now, that Franziskaner Weissbier, they're all from Munich, and I think that's what in America we're familiar with is those Munich beers that we say, hey, you know, because I know I can go out in Sparta and probably find this beer at half the bars I go to, which you wouldn't think you would, but it's popular enough where you can do that, and it definitely has a little bit more of a sweeter taste, I think.
Yes.
Right. Yep. I mean, I don't taste the fruity or spicy stuff. I mean, it's definitely sweeter.
Well, I get the sweeter.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And maybe that's the fruity part of it that they're describing.
Yeah,
but
I would agree, yes.
Yeah, you know, it's different. I mean, I think that if you want to try something, it's a great place to go and say, yeah, I'll have one of those. Are you going to drink a 6-pack? Probably not.
Maybe not in one sitting, but.
Right.
But. I mean, these have all been really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
The flavors.
Yep.
I mean, again, these were all in build your own 6-pack. When I went to the store, these I didn't have to buy a 6-pack, but I mean, now by being able to do this, if I want to go back, they had the other ones a 6-pack. So I mean, this is good that I think we talked about it before, where you can try one and see if you like it. Right?
That's the thing that I think is really cool. The fact that they do have imported beers on the build your own 6-pack.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of times that I think people don't buy a lot of imported beers because they don't know. Right. And again, I totally get it. If you have to buy a 6-pack or whatever of it, if it is terrible, you're like, oh, no, I'm stuck with it. But on the build your own 6-pack, you can, you know, I'm guessing that's what you did because you had 6 different German and Czech beers. And it's just like, wow, you know, why not try them?
Well, and I didn't find these all in one stop.
Oh, okay.
I've had to go back a few times.
Okay.
And I keep looking to see if there's anything different or new, and I grab it, put it in.
And you know, I think it's worth saying that, Jim, you've been doing this for a while. You know, you and Mike have gone through beers, and you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, and then you think about, okay, like, let's look at Oktoberfest beers, let's look at beers from Munich, whatever it might be. But I think the average beer drinker from America, they don't know where to start. And I know there was a guy that had talked to you, Mike, that just came up and said, you know, I really appreciate what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I love your podcast because it's just exposed me to something different. And that's really, I think, the essence of all of this. Like, if you're willing to just try something different, you're going to start going down a lane. Then you're like, oh, these are really good. Like, oh, I didn't know that was there. And to me, that's the beauty about craft beers. And that's my comparison to the European beers. Every community did their own. They thought they had it figured out. In America, we've been drinking the same beers for years. Mm-hmm. And craft beers have come up in the last, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And they've really caught on lately. And so people are like, oh, I'm going to try this or that. But I'm going to say, if you want to try beers that really go to the heart of what beers are, go to the European beers. Because again, 500-600 years of experience.
Right. Right.
So if you want to get into craft beers, great. Try a bunch as many as you want. But if you want to just get to some basics, I think you need to listen to this podcast and try some of the ones we're talking about.
You know, Toby, what you just said, you're 100% right. Because, like I said, the gentleman that had said that to me, it's like, you know, it made me feel good because you and Jim and I, you know, we're giving our opinions and all that. But what you just said about, like, especially the German side of beers, German and Czech side, it's like, if you haven't tried those before, you really need to try them because a lot of times you might think, oh, that tastes very similar to this or that, or, you know what I mean? Or there's not a huge amount of flavor, whatever. But it's like they've been making this beer for 500 years. Something is right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To me, it's, again, just the fact that these breweries have been around longer than our country has been around.
Yep.
And they're still going.
Hey, I don't want to cut you off, but Toby's already in the next beer. We haven't even given our score.
Oh.
So I'm going to go.
Which beer was this one? Oh,
we're
this
doing
was
the
the
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein beer.
So I do like it. It has more flavor than the other ones.
Correct.
I'm going to go 2.8. So I'm trying to keep mine in sequence I can remember at the end so I know what to rank them.
Toby?
I've had multiple conversations with my dad about this beer. Like I said, you can find this beer a lot of bars or taverns in our area. But to me, it's not as good as some of the others. So if 2.5 is the average, I'm a 2.4 on this one.
No, you did give a 2.4 to the last one.
I did.
You keep it a 2.4?
Yeah,
All right.
Spaten and this one are very similar, even though they're a little bit different in flavor.
I was going to go with 2.6. I think it's just, my opinion, it's just a little better than average. It has that sweeter flavor to it, but the more you drink it, it wears on you a little bit. But for a German beer, I think it's very good.
And so part of my conflict, and we'll get to it, I think, when we get into Czech beers, is I'm a fan of the Czech beers over some of the German beers.
So what's the next beer we have here?
So we're on the Hacker-Pshorr.
Hacker-Pshorr.
Munich Gold Lager. And when I did the research on this, 5.5% ABV. This, it says, closely resembles the, Munchner Hall.
Okay.
In terms of taste, and mainly owes its popularity to a slightly higher original gravity and the malty note. The result is a full-bodied yet mild taste, which delivers an increasingly bitter note before culminating in an aromatic finish. A real treat for true beer connoisseurs.
And this is by, can I see?
This has been brewed since 1417.
Yep.
Oh.
So just to put your age hat back on there, Mike.
All right. So it took them longer to get to where they're at.
Wow, 14. Wow. Hopefully this wasn't the one that was aged.
That is just unbelievable to me. They've been brewing beer for almost 700 years. You know, that's unbelievable.
Oh, and just so everybody knows to know, the first two were in, one was a green can, one's a green bottle. Now these last two are in brown bottles. Yeah. So it's just unique because, American beers were used to clear. Everything's clear.
No.
Like your big brands. Not your craft beers, but your bigger brands.
No, they're usually in a brown bottle.
Like who?
Like Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light. They're all in brown bottles.
No.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm. You're thinking like,
maybe you haven't had a.
You're thinking of Corona and such.
So okay, you're both right? So Miller Lite, brown bottle. Miller High Life, clear bottle.
Correct. I'm talking about the light beers.
Yeah. So it does vary,
but nothing like what we're seeing here with these.
No.
The color.
Correct.
You can even see the difference in one's even a darker brown.
Yeah, the Hacker-Pshorr bottles definitely a darker.
Yeah.
Very dark brown. So I don't know if that helps protect the beer a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think our American laws of
our American laws,
right?
Yeah.
Pasteurization and all of that come into play, and that hugely affects the flavor.
Yes.
If you can find a place that can import directly and you can get the beer in its purest form, awesome.
Well, and I would go to say that the Frankenstein or whatever is the only one that is out of it looks different in your glass.
Correct.
These other three
they've
look
been very
similar.
Very similar.
I mean, very light golden. You can see through it. It's
little bit of a hazy, cloudy look to it.
It's not very. I mean, at 5.5%, it doesn't taste like it. Only I would even be suspect when it says 15 IBUs.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think it's I might even be single digits. I mean, this is probably no. If I was at the Munich Oktoberfest and this was on tap, I can see myself drinking a few of these big.
Like I said, I know Hacker that they have like one of the big tents at Oktoberfest in Munich.
Yeah.
So are they in Germany? Are they like one of the big brands, or
I don't want to mislead people. I haven't been to an Oktoberfest, and like I said, I haven't been to Germany for several years. But I do want to point out that this is a Hacker-Pshorr that is the Municher Gold, and there's different variations of Hacker-Pshorr that you can get.
Right.
This has a little bit more of a robust flavor to it, I think, than just some of the normal Hacker-Pshorrs. You're not going to find the gold in your normal bar.
Right. It said that when I was looking this up, it said this is imported. This actual one. They have ones that are made in the United States. There's 3 made in the United States, and then there's 3 made and imported. And this is one of the imported ones.
Yeah, you can tell the difference in that. Your normal Hacker-Pshorr is a little bit more mellow than this.
Even more mellow than
yes, and this has some good flavor, I think.
Right.
And it's a good beer, but I think because this is gold, it's going to be a little bit different than what you're going to find in a bar.
So, what are you thinking, Mike, on this?
I like it.
Do you?
Oh no, I'm gonna go with like a 3.0. I like it. I think it's pretty good.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, so I'd like it. I mean, it's in a category I could mow grass with it. I think I could drink a 6-pack of this. It's not high ABV, so I mean, it hits all of my categories. The only thing that's a little bit lacking in flavor, but it's not bad. There's nothing, I can't find anything bad with this. So I think I'm going to have to double up and go 2.8. I like the Frankenstein and I like this one.
So you're okay with having 2 of the same score?
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to go 2.85.
Okay.
I'm going to differentiate it so it's a little bit higher. Toby, what do you think?
Again, this is the gold, and normally, the Hacker-Pshorrs that I've had aren't the gold. So for this beer, I'm really sitting around that like 2.7.
Okay.
Ooh, this is your best beer so far.
Yeah. Nice. No, I think it's a good beer, and it's great that we could get this opportunity to drink it in America.
Well, like I said, it has a sweetness to me that it's not overly sweet, but it has a sweetness that I think is pretty good. So it's really cool to try the different German styles. I shouldn't say styles, the different breweries that have been around forever. And just to taste the difference, it's really cool.
So we talk a lot about the German beers, and obviously there's a lot of heritage and things that go along that. But what country is right next to Germany?
Is this a Czech beer?
It's a Czech beer. And what country is right next to Germany?
Czechoslovakia,
right?
It definitely has a different aroma to it.
And this is the original Czech lager. This is the 5% ABV. This one started brewing in 1265.
Oh my God.
So I'm just
really? That's crazy.
I just want to ask this question. Honestly, when you smell this right away, what do you think?
Skunk.
Skunky, right? So
that's the first thing I thought of.
Yep, absolutely. It's got that skunky smell, right? So when I was in Germany, I was lucky enough, my cousins took me into the Republic of Czech. They'd gone through, the changes in the country. And I got to go to the original brewery that made Budweiser. Okay. So Budweiser is what it was. But the family that came to the United States and established Budweiser came from this family in Czechoslovakia. So I'm super excited to see what this is, even though that first smell is skunky. Because sometimes, in my opinion, that skunky smell just translates to good beer.
Oh.
So what is funny is, and I'm not going to lie, the first smell was skunk. The taste is not skunk.
So here's another
very good flavor.
So here's another thing about German beers. Every city that has their beers brewed has their own shape of a glass because the beer needs to aerate. So when you pour it in the glass, the shape of it helps that beer aerate bring air in, fumes go out, all of that. So when we poured this beer, okay, and we're not using the proper glasses, but
Are you saying these plastic cups are not that?
well, I mean, they work for us for the 99% of the beers we have.
Right.
But it doesn't allow the beer to aerate it the way it should. And so that's a huge difference in a lot of the beers that we try. So I think that if we had a different glass and it foamed up and it had the chance to settle down, it would even have a different flavor off of that skunky flavor that we originally got. But with that said, in our plastic cups, it ends up being pretty good.
I think this is one of those, and I was looking it up. It talked about it has a tradition of cold conditioning in their brewery cellars for 7 times longer than most other beers, which creates a pale lager with a sweet, deep golden body, aromatic, hoppy foam. So when I was looking at the pictures, I mean, it was like underground. They're built, so they must keep it colder for a lot longer. I mean, it definitely tastes good. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that initial smell, but I mean, it's not. I mean, like you have to like get the glass right down there, and it's just a very faint.
It's definitely not offensive.
No, like you said, the first aroma was skunky. Mm-hmm. The flavor is anything but skunky.
Yep,
it's very good. I like it.
Well, what do you think, Toby?
Well, in my opinion, again...
Your humble opinion or your...
Well, obviously. But no, seriously, again, 2.5's average. I think this is above average. I'm going to go with 3.
Wow. You just like jumped way over the top. All right, Mike, what do you got going?
I really like it. I think, like I said, the aroma might turn some people off.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with 2.9 just because I think it was a 3 flavor, but the aroma would turn some people off because it does have a little bit of a skunky smell.
No, you did have another 2.9 in here.
No, that's fine.
You sure you leave it?
I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, I think it's very good, and you can taste the difference between the German and Czech style. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the aroma is a little, leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's not bad. It's not offensive. It's not anything that I would like shrug my face at or not want to take it. But it does have a different aroma, a different flavor, something that you got to be ready for, and it's not maybe as smooth as some of those first 3 ones. For me, I think it's an average. I'm going to go 2.5. Keep it right in the middle, so I can't be wrong.
Like I said, you can definitely taste the difference between the German style and Czech style in these beers.
Right. So now I don't know if this is going to impact how we continue on, but that was the 5th and final beer from a brewery from Europe. Our next one is still a Czech style beer.
Oh, I think it'll
from
be fine.
3 Sheeps, which is
in the U.S. Yeah.
Right, it's from the U.S. So these 5, the first 5 we did, are all. So I don't know if you want to talk anything.
I think
on
this
that,
will,
or you want to include that, or how you want to do it.
I think we should just go with it, and I think this will be a really interesting comparison to see how a U.S. Czech style beer compares to actual Czech style. And, Toby, I mean, do you agree?
I agree.
Because we could do, our favorite.
Yep, no, I agree. And I guess my only comment with this is, and my dad and I get into this all the time, he's like, no, flavor is flavor. And I'm like, okay.
That's true.
And I'm like, I get what you're saying, Dad, but yet, like, the average, the norm, whatever you want to call it, I mean, the majority of people like a certain thing, so if it doesn't come in our wheelhouse of what we like in America, is it good or not? So I personally, like, my wheelhouse is that Czech beer.
Yes.
I really like those beers, and I'll take them over even the German beers. Yeah. But other people will disagree, and regardless. So I think it'll be really interesting when we look at this American Czech style beer, how it compares to the one that we did have, and even like the Spaten compared to the Czech beer that we had.
Yes,
way different.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and where you guys were at, and where I'm at, okay, and we just go with it. Yep. So I think let's crack it open and see.
And I think the other part that's interesting, I just like these weird one-off things. So what I'm looking it up online, and it only had one sentence on the website.
Really?
And it just said it was brewed to support Movember Foundation to raise awareness for men's health.
Okay.
It doesn't even talk about the flavor.
Huh.
So that's the only thing I don't know what
we're gonna see.
Right. So who made this?
Three Sheeps.
Okay.
Which we've had some very good beers.
We've had a number of Three Sheeps beers.
And I think I found this at the Build Your Own 6-pack. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're not going to get a can down the road.
Like a dud.
A dud on this one. So hopefully.
Wow, this one is a lot lighter
in
color.
So based off
the first thing I see is it's way
But
lighter.
it does have a lot of head.
It's got head, but
Toby gives beers with head.
But it's a lot lighter in color.
And based off the pour, I'm going to say that there's probably not a whole lot to this one.
You can smell.
Smell doesn't smell.
Smells different than
remember what you said about the Czech beer. So it could be
correct.
Masking that.
Correct.
Yep. I mean, the smell might not translate to flavor.
It has flavor, but it's
smooth.
Different. It's a different flavor.
I mean,
Wow.
It doesn't.
Not what I expected.
Right.
No,
I mean, it doesn't.
Not at all.
The aroma is different than the Czechvar.
That is weird.
God, that's smooth, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say that, again, my bias towards the Czech beers, like, that's smooth. And I think a lot of Czech beers are smoother than the German beers. But this is under that.
This does not taste like any of the other beers we had.
This is good. I mean, this is not bad.
So it's 5.2%, right?
Yep.
And
it says 24 IBUs. I don't know if it's. I don't taste any hoppiness or bitterness
Different than the other beers.
but when you think about average, where's it fall? Oh, and what are we comparing it to?
Oh, wait. Did we even say the name of it?
Now you see me.
What does that tie into?
Can you guys see me?
Now you see me.
No, wait. You see me? Now you see me?
Yep.
Listener. You're saying listeners. Can you see me?
Oh,
Yeah, now you the listeners.
listeners may see me.
There you go.
So,
Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's very good.
I'm surprised, but it has a vastly different flavor than the German and Czech style did.
absolutely.
I mean, it's not a bad flavor, though, is it?
No, I'm not saying it's bad at all, but it's definitely a different flavor.
And my only question is, what do we compare it to? Like, if I just said, if I'm going to drink this beer, it's a great flavor.
The sad part is it doesn't really
So then,
fall into what we tried.
so then this says. I mean, am I splitting hairs when I say it says the one from Czechoslovakia, original Czech lager, and this is a Czech style Pilsner. Honestly, I don't. There's not much difference between lager and Pilsner.
Well, Pilsner and lager has minute
Right.
references.
But I mean, is that what you think you're picking up a difference
No, I don't.
there? I mean, I don't know if that's the only thing, because I didn't get any info on the Three Sheeps one. But
Yeah, man, I don't know how to rate it because I think this is kind of an outlier compared to the other five we tried.
so then, since you're saying that, what are you giving it for a score since you think it's an outlier? Because I asked, remember, didn't I? Because I didn't know what it was going to taste like either.
So before Mike answers, I just want to say this. I think that we had no idea what this is going to be. And we're all drinking it, and we're kind of to the point of like, wait a minute, where's this fit in? And I don't think it fits in anywhere with our previous scores. This is brewed by Three Sheeps. I think they did a great job. Could I drink a couple of these beers? Absolutely. So if average is 2.5, I'm probably giving this like a 2.8 because it's not bad.
I was going to
It's
say
smooth. It's drinkable.
I was going 2.7.
Okay.
2.7.
And the same thing. I could drink a couple of them, and just compared to the other beers we had, I think it's not quite to that level. But they haven't been around since 12, whatever, But it's a good beer. I'm not offended at all.
But I mean, I think like we talked. I mean, there is that slight aroma from that one. You don't have that aroma with this.
No,
it's very similar in flavor
and no aftertaste. I mean, it's smooth.
They did a very good job.
Yes, that's good.
You know what? Unfortunately, then for me, I'm going to be the opposite of all you guys. I'm going to go with 3.0. This is going to be my best beer tonight. Okay. I mean,
I can't argue with you, Jim. I mean, it's good.
It's got a good flavor. I mean, and so now, I'm torn because I had all these good German beers. And then the last one is the one that's from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. That tastes better than
the only thing I'm going to bring up is normally, Jim, you look at a beer and you talk about the flavor, if that's dominant in it.
Right.
And I'm not questioning your judgment. You rate it where it is, but like in my opinion, it was just average. It wasn't like more of that. And I rated it at 2.8.
Right.
3.0 is not that far off, but I don't think it was that much above and beyond an average beer.
Right. For sure.
So
yeah, and I think we talked at the very beginning, the window for all of these is going to be really close.
Yeah, correct.
Really close. So, I mean, even though I think we got lagers,
that's what we
Pilsner.
thought, and that's how it felt.
Right.
You know?
So, Toby, you want to give your top three and what you think, what you thought about that?
well, obviously, I said I have bias for the Czech beers. I thought the Czech beer was great. You get past the smell, the flavor is fantastic. This last beer, like we talked about, is smooth. It's great. It's just like in America, I'm going to say that's a good beer. I'm not going to deny that. And then the Hacker-Pshorr is always a good beer, and that's where I kind of follow. So those three are my top three. Okay. And
so, what'd you think overall? Just try, because this is the first time Mike and I have ever tried anything like this. I mean, what do you think of this?
So I'm going to say that there are so many European beers that we could really look at. We are limited in what we have access to, but we could truly dive down into regions and flavors, and look at the difference between dark bottles and green bottles and all of that.
Nice.
And we might get there, but again, I'm gonna appeal to our listeners and say that if you're listening to this, you're trying to learn a little bit and grow, just try something. Buy that Czech beer and see what you think and go from there. And we'd love you to reach out to us and say, hey, this is what I thought.
Mm-hmm. So, Jim, what I took out of that is that Toby is taking us to Germany. And we're going to try a lot of beers over there.
Yeah, but
that's the way I took that.
You better get a bigger charger for your laptop, because I don't know if we're going to be able to keep.
I will have to get a bigger charger.
If we go over to Germany and try to do this thing, we got to wait till the next day because we're going to be drunk.
Okay,
and it's going to be loud. It's going to be loud. We're going to even hear each other. So, what do you think, Mike? What are your top three?
Honestly, the beers, the way I looked at them, I mean, the Spaten was my number one. Was the Hacker-Pshorr.
Yep.
I think that was really good. And we, again, in our area, you get that, but it's a very good beer.
Yes.
And that one, and then I had the Spaten, and I had the Czech beer.
Yep.
Tied for my second place. And I think they just, again, the Czech beer and it's Czeckvar, whatever it is. The smell, again, I think would turn some people off because it does smell skunky. But the flavor is
very faint, though.
Very good. But it has that a little bit of aroma, but the taste is not like that. Right. And like I said, I think that it was a good beer. You brewed beers in 12 whatever. You're doing something right.
And I have to add to that, if we had a glass that was shaped in the right form,
correct,
you could pour it in there and could aerate, it'd be way different than our...
And if it was poured on tap, one of those glasses.
Are you saying our Dixie cups are not very good?
Well, these plastic Dixie cups...
They may not be Dixie cups, but they're clear.
Yeah.
So, Jim, what did you think?
So, I'm close to what you guys had. My number one is the Now You See Me by Three Sheeps. I had that at the top. The number two, the Hacker-Pshorr. And then number three was the Frankenstein.
Oh,
okay. Yep.
So, I mean, they were all very close. I mean, I think from 3.0 to 2.5. So I was within 0.5.
You were about half a point.
Right. All my beers, which I thought was good. I mean, because I had never tried any of these beers before.
Yep.
Never
tried any of them. So, I mean, now the only close thing was that Spaten Oktoberfest.
Yes, we had the Oktoberfest.
Right. Yeah. That was close, but of all these, I've never had them, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And I'm glad that I was able to find something like this. Unfortunately, it only comes around here this time of year, fall season. Yeah. But I'm glad that I was able to find 6 that we could try with friends like you guys, and hopefully you guys liked it as much as I did.
Yeah, and again, I think it's so important to understand that, everybody thinks, I got to do this or do that, and I got to like that or that. It doesn't matter. You just have to try, and you don't know. So Start somewhere, have a few, And Jim, I know you absolutely love being able to build your own 6-pack. There are several stores that provide that, and people don't always realize that.
Right.
So go to a place that you can build your own 6-pack, pick a few out, because you're not wasting money then. You get to try it, you get to decide. And if you need help figuring that out, all of us are always willing to drink a beer with you and join us anytime.
Right, or send it to us and we'll try it.
Absolutely.
We'd be more than happy to try beer for
Give it a whirl, then we'll give it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Toby, what's your dad's name?
My dad's name is Robert Oswald.
Robert, we would like to just say, we want to send out a cheer. Robert, thank you so much.
Well, I think they call it say Prost, don't they?
I'm getting there.
Oh,
I'm getting there.
Prost.
Jim ruined it, Toby.
You said cheers.
No, I did not.
Oh,
hold on. Robert, we want to send you a special thank you for letting us hang out with your son, letting us, hear his stories of going to Germany, and, for the fact that you introduced him to craft beer, so to speak. I mean, German beers and such. And we just want to say thank you. And we'd love to have him on the podcast. So if you're ever, thirsty, Robert, you can for sure come out and hang out with us.
Well,
so, like Jim said, Prost, right?
Prost.
And
there's no clanking.
There's no clanking because we have plastic in a can, apparently. But yeah.
I greatly appreciate that, Mike. And if Dad comes, then we'll just sit back and listen.
We'd love to hear his stories.
Absolutely. So, I'd love to hear the stories. My dad says so. So it is always good.
Toby, Jim, thank you so much again for joining me on the podcast. I think we, again, doing the imported German and Czech style beers, it has really been an eye opener, so to speak. When a brewery's been around for 500 years longer than our country's been around, they're doing something right.
Yes,
and you can just taste the differences in that. And I'm so glad that we were able to try them together, see what the differences were. Yeah, it's awesome. Jim, did you have anything?
No, I'm glad I was able to drink them with you guys. And I hope that the listeners learned something about them. I hope they're less apprehensive. And like we always talk about, invite somebody over. Try one, grab a bottle, bring somebody over and give it a whirl. What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to find a beer that you might actually like and might want to drink again. So let's keep doing it.
Toby, you got anything to say?
I just think that this avenue of opinion is fantastic. And from my perspective, and what I understand, none of us are saying we're right, but what we want to do is expose people to things, get you to think about things, and just like Jim said, just try something, because that's what we want you to do.
Like we said before, there's no wrong opinion. It's your opinion. Mm-hmm. There's not a wrong opinion.
So again, if you want to drink beer, we're always willing to drink it with you.
We'll be glad to drink beer with you guys. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to us. And as we always say, we hope your campfire is warm and your beer is always cold.
See ya.
Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Northwoods Beer Guy podcast. If you have a question, a comment, or a beer you'd like us to review, please feel free to send us a message at northwoodsbeerguy@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're on Untappd, look up Northwoods Beer Guy and send a friend request. Until next week, I hope all your campfires are warm and all your beer is cold.